Mr. Cowan, if you are free and able, we would love to hear from you.
All right, can y'all hear me?
Yes, sir.
We just got back from Orange County, California, where we had our LNC meeting. It's a long trip out there, but it was a gorgeous area geographically and by weather. Our meeting was peaceful. Nobody got into any arguments as far as I was aware. I did get in the hot tub, which I've never gotten in the hot tub at a meeting before, but it was nice. Because it was just glorious in California. My brother actually lives in the town where the thing was, and so I got to have dinner with him. So it was very, very nice. The only, the most of the meeting was just reports and things were going well. The money's up, the money's up to normal levels, and so we're happy about that. And we adopted a budget. Um, so all of that was good. I did want to let you all know that I have been honored to represent you all on the LNC, but I am planning to run for office next year, and so while I'm going to complete my term, and I will go, and I've already paid for the convention, and I'm going to the convention. I probably won't run again for alternate Region Two, and so somebody needs to think about whether or not they want to run for alternate Region 2. And I can tell you it's a great time, and I've really enjoyed my time there. It is a little bit of expense. It costs at least $1,000 every quarter, so $4,000 a year to be on the team. But I think it's worth it, and I certainly did have enjoyed my time. And I'm looking forward to the next two meetings in person that will happen probably in Florida and then in DC. So that's my report. I hope you all are doing great. Thank you again for allowing me to represent you as the alternate Region 2. If there are any questions, I'd be more than happy to answer them.
Uh, did anything come of the Civi
There was
deal?
a very strong, I mean, there was a huge sale on trying to get us on board with, moving out of that project. Now there's no idea that it's going to, we're going to shut it off on December the 31st to 2023. The idea is that we want to have the IT people in our organization find another product and start using it and start building it up and transition over a period of months and or years to the new product. So that was discussed. There was a big push to persuade people on that. I have always been in favor of, it's not my decision as a member of the LNC to decide what software to use. That's a decision that should be made by the IT people, and then the officers should decide it. And so I wasn't disturbed by that, and there was very little. There was no Nobody was disturbed by the idea that we need to move to another product. There was a clear indication from Dave Benner and others that there are concerns on the state level of moving away from that product. So that was communicated, but it was clear that the move would not be dramatic, would not be instantaneous, that it would happen over a period of months and or years, and that we're going to start moving in that direction. That's what I have to say about that.
Awesome. Thank you. Anyone else? All right. If not, we appreciate the update and the report.
My pleasure. Thank you.
All right. Moving forward to Mr. Mosley for our 2024 ballot access report.
Am I hearable?
You are. You're a little bit distant, but we can hear you.
Okay. Does that make it better?
That's better.
Okay, so I'm sure all of you are aware that we have some good news this past month. The courts have finally made a final decision for the 2024 election, and it's in our favor. So we are going to have PSC races, PSC 3 and 5, and that is a big relief to me. And I hope that all of you understand the significance of this and the threat that it was. Moving forward, I want all of you to be conscious, to be continuously aware of our ballot access situation. I've never seen a threat like that to our situation in my time in the LPGA, but we always need to be aware and conscious that something like that can come up. I do not know if this is now a dead issue or if it can arise again. The legal I'm speaking to the legal situation that would require the PSC races to become districted rather than statewide races. And I want all of you to think about this. And I want you to think for a moment. Let's talk for just a second about Shane Hazel. Shane Hazel showed up with us in about the year 2020. He had no previous experience with the party, yet he has been willing to be on the ballot for us in these high-level races for 2 election cycles. Now, I want you to think and I've been very happy with Shane's candidacy. I think he's a good candidate, and he's well spoken. But the point I want to make to you, if we were not able to run candidates for governor and Senate without petitions, would we have been able to place somebody like Shane on the ballot? In a situation like that, it changes all the dynamics. And I want all of you to, going forward, I want all of you to be aware of this and be thankful that we have this situation now, and we have to do everything we can to keep it. So moving forward, what's immediately in our, what we have to do immediately is get prepared for the 2024 elections. And that means now that the deck is cleared for us to have PSC candidates, we need to find those candidates in District 3 and District 5. So just, I want to give you, and we all need to be actively looking for people to jump in, to be in these candidates for us. And I want to share with you in past elections, what I've been telling most of us. Let me start this all over. Most of us have never been candidates before, and so somebody that's new and the issue of being a PSC candidate comes up for them, they're going to be intimidated. And it's important that we support people who might be willing and qualified to do this, to get through this. And I'm going to share with you, when I talk to people, the minimum expectations that I have of them, that I think takes a lot of the edge off them being a candidate. First, so there's 3 of them. One is to get your paperwork handled, all of your financial disclosures with the state and or the FEC if you need to, Federal Election Commission. So that's number 1, just to be current with, make sure you're current with that and take that paperwork seriously, because that can be a point of disqualification if we mess it up. Number 2 is be responsive to any press inquiries that come your way. There won't be too many of them. There will be maybe a handful or so towards the actual election date, the last month or 2. But we need to be responsive to that and not ignore them. And finally, to participate in the debates. There will be probably just 1 debate. So once people see that this is not that complicated, and then we can follow up. Anybody that would be candidate here, we need to support them with helping them research the issues so that they're conversant with these issues. Actually, on this call, we have two people, at least two people. I'm looking at the list. Elizabeth and Colin have already confronted this, and we have actually more people that have run for PSC than any other race. So we would have a lot of support for just getting yourself conversant about the issues, so you don't feel like a fool because you don't know anything. We can get you ramped up real quickly. So that's in our face right now, and with the convention coming up in January, that's a little over a month. We're going to have to resolve that issue and get those two candidates. And so please take that seriously, and let's pull together as a team and make this happen. This is critical for our ballot access for 2026. Okay, so I would like to, if the body is okay, I would like Colin to speak to what he knows about whether or not there'll be a District 2 race or not. With the body's permission, can Colin speak for a minute if he's willing?
I actually, excuse me, I actually don't know what the plans are. I have been trying to, get Brian to, confide in what he might know, but, I can't imagine that the state would be okay with Tim Echols going another 6 years without an election. I just think that would be unfathomable. So presumably there should be elections for those posts that didn't get to be elected last time. And if y'all will have me, I will continue to represent the state party in that stead. But of course, if somebody else wants to run for that, we can debate that, I suppose.
And Colin, would you please speak to the body and give us in a sentence or two the steps you've taken to become conversant about this position? Because I know your background is not in energy or anything like that, so you had to make special efforts to understand what was going on here. So can you speak to that for just a moment?
I started following all of the movers and shakers in that field, and for better or for worse, Tim Echols is actually a great candidate. He's a great politician, even though I disagree with him on like 80% of what he says. So he's well versed in all the issues. He's on the wrong side of most of them, but he's actually got a podcast, so I listened to him for a long time, and then I basically I started a new account on social media, basically for a campaign account, and then just followed everyone that was in that field on both sides of all the issues. All the people who are popular, all the people who have important things to say. I followed the other candidates. I followed the Democrat candidate. I followed all the candidates in all of the other races as well. I bought several books. I didn't make my way through most of them, but it's much easier to listen to podcasts and other kind of audible listening things so that I could kind of learn while I was actually doing something else. And if anybody ends up deciding to run, I can certainly give you more details on the things that I listened to that really kind of elucidated for me what the real problems in this industry are. And of course, once I committed to be a candidate, Mark really walked me through all of the steps that are involved, all the technical things, and I really appreciate Mark's help with that. You have to get, all your paperwork filed. You have to get a bank account. You have to get a candidate phone number, all of those things to kind of protect yourself personally as you're running. But Mark was a tremendous help in kind of guiding me through all of that, and I appreciate it. And of course, all of the people who have run for PSC from this party in the past have been, tremendously helpful as well, especially Ryan. I appreciate his help too. And you can always go back and look at the debates from the Atlanta Press Club. You can see all of those. They're all stored online. So you can kind of go back in time and see how those went for everybody as well.
Okay. Thank you, Colin, and thank you for being our candidate. I would like to ask the same question of Elizabeth, if she's willing, and also on the call is Ryan Graham, who was our PSC candidate, District 3 in 2018. If the body will permit Ryan to speak to this, I'd like for him to explain to everybody what he did to get prepared for his run. So if we can spare the time, I'd appreciate it. This is a very important thing right now, that everybody understand that this is doable. Okay. So, Mr. Chair, is this okay, good.
Okay.
Elizabeth, would you like to speak to us for a moment?
Hear me? Is my microphone working?
Yes. Yes.
So I watched the debates. Watching the previous debates was very helpful, and just read a great number of articles. Went out to the PSC website and tried to keep on top of what was going on and what they were talking about. And the Atlanta Journal-Constitution does a lot of reporting on what's going on with the PSC. So that was a useful resource too. And I really appreciated Mark and John Turpish, who we did virtual sessions, and they helped me run through like the debate scenario, because that was my biggest fear. I didn't want to go out publicly and make a fool of myself and the party in the process by not being able to perform well in the debate. So we spent several sessions going and practicing mock debates.
Yeah, and Elizabeth, I have one more question for you, if you can take a moment. For all of you on this board, what I want you to know about Elizabeth is Elizabeth at the 2020 LPGA convention spontaneously made the decision to be our candidate here. She had never been a candidate before, and I can only imagine the wall of fear she had to climb to actually stand up and do that for us. So I'd like for Elizabeth to just speak for a moment about how that was for her. Just speak from your heart and explain. Just talk to us about that experience of going from being fearful and clueless to getting beyond that and knowing that you could actually do this. Because in the end, Elizabeth gained a lot of confidence. It was very obvious to me. So Elizabeth, do you mind speaking to that?
Well, I almost didn't even go to the convention because I had been up all night working, but I did go, and there were like 2 people. Well, I think there were 4 people there from PSC1, and John Mons was there. He was planning to run for president, and the other 2 people that were there were they were like absolute new to the party. They knew absolutely nothing. And so I was pretty much the only person that could do it. And because Mark was so passionate about telling us about how so much was at stake over somebody needing to do this. And Ted was kind of volunteering me too. So yeah, it was just, there was no one else to do it. So I just had to. And I had plans for campaigning a lot better than I actually did end up campaigning, but it was 2020. The pandemic happened. There weren't a whole lot of opportunities to go out and do things. Most of them were virtual. But yeah, it was a good experience.
Yes, and we all of us owe Elizabeth a debt of gratitude for doing that, because in 2020 there was only one PSC candidate, and that was the PSC district she was in, and she did this. She did this just for the love of the cause that we all work in. So, and finally, Ryan, you're sending us a message that you're going to be busy. So, so if Ryan, if you've got a moment to talk and the body is okay with that, I'd like to hear from you too.
I think he said his kid's calling him. I don't know if that's on the phone or in person, but he might be indisposed currently.
Okay. I would like to give him a moment to speak to that later if he comes back, just because he's done the same thing, and I think it's important that this be in our that we all know that it's possible to come from somebody from being clueless to being clueful, is how I like to say it. It is that's where we all have to come from as we turn and face the world. And everybody, I'm almost finished. I would like to say I am very, very relieved that we finally received the money from the Secretary of State to do the leveling fund. And I want everybody to be aware and have it in your consciousness that the timeliness of this payment was really weird. It's never taken this long for them to get us this money. It has always in the past come in late February, March, April, somewhere like that. So the XCOM will change here in about a month with the new convention, at least partially. We need to be, we need to collectively all put this in our mind and keep it in our mind for future years, so we can get after this and hold the Secretary of State accountable for what they're supposed to do. And I think we all owe Jared a big thank you for staying on top of that for us. It's not like he doesn't have other things to do. So that was a good cleanup for us, Jared. I very much appreciate it.
Now we got to give you credit.
Other than hearing from Ryan. So other than I'd like to hear from Ryan if he's willing to speak later when he comes back.
Sure.
But other than that, I'm finished with this, and I appreciate everybody's attention.
Awesome. Thank you, Mr. Mosley. Moving on to the next portion of business, the motion to amend the policy manual for the membership levels. And I believe Zane is changing screens for us. Mr. Placey, sorry. All right.
I am sharing now the motion that was made by Mr. Aiken in the previous meeting, which was then postponed by the body to this meeting. So it is now back under consideration. And for those who cannot see my screen, what this motion is doing is, first of all, raising the amount of the lifetime membership to $1,776, and then is codifying in the policy manual all of the various other membership tiers, which are currently on our website already, but are not formally defined as membership levels in the policy manual.
All right, so this is bringing back a motion that was prior, that was made and seconded prior. Is there any debate on this motion? Mr. Allen says he got disconnected for a second there. So just to repeat, we are looking at the policy manual and the update to the membership levels in there. And it's saying the following levels of association are recognized by the party, and specifically naming them at an annual and a monthly level. As I'm looking at it, it might be good to have a date associated with this. So I would entertain a motion to amend this to be at the beginning 1/1/24. The following levels of association are recognized by the party.
I move that we amend it to include the language that 1/1/24 is the start date for the new membership levels.
Is there a second?
Second.
All right, it's been moved and seconded to amend this motion as yeah, that works. To make this update to the policy manual as of January 1st, 2024. Is there any debate? Hearing none, those in favor of amending this motion as shown on the screen, please raise your hands. Okay,
I see 10 in favor.
looks right to me. Y'all can lower your hands. Your hand's still up. There we go. And those opposed? All right. The ayes have it. The amendment passes, and we are now to the actual motion itself. So the motion on the floor is as of January 1st, 2024, the following change will be added to the policy manual. We will change the membership levels: lifetime member, 1776, patron, sponsor, sustaining member, patriot member, basic member, and each of those numbers listed on the screen. Is there any debate? Hearing none, we will close debate. Those in favor of this motion as presented, raise your hands. All
I
right.
see 8 in favor.
Okay. Those opposed, sorry, we'll wait. Okay, those opposed?
Mr. Mo, oh, okay. I see none.
I see none. The ayes have it. This motion has passed. All right.
Hey, can I ask a quick question about that real quick?
Yes, sir.
So the way that that is worded and has been worded, I don't think it's anything new, is, you know, that much money within a year. So even if somebody drops $30 into the donation form and not specifically the membership form, we would still consider them a member?
I would. I don't have the how it's done in city, and that was actually something that Mr. Placey and I were discussing earlier, was talking to them about specific pieces and how the rules behind the scenes work. But currently, I would consider them a member if they've dropped 30 in a year.
Okay, thank you.
Very welcome. I'm going to make a note of that as well. And while I'm doing that, the next order of business is the resolution to condemn the government response to the Stop Cop City movement and to condemn acts of violence and domestic terrorism. Mr. Allen, I believe that's yours. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Perfect. If you would like to read your motion for us and your resolution, so we can take an informed vote.
I move the adoption of the following resolution. Whereas on June 12th, 2023, the Libertarian Party of Georgia adopted a resolution to oppose Cop City, condemning weaponization of the law against peaceful opposition, opposing police militarization, endorsing voting yes on the proposed referendum to repeal Atlanta City Council Ordinance 21-0-0367, and opposing Cop City, also known as the Atlanta Public Safety Training Center. And whereas the platform of the Libertarian Party of Georgia states that we recognize peaceful protest and civil disobedience as being among the proper and moral means to check, alter, or abolish government, as well as affirm the individual right to keep and bear arms. And whereas the Constitution of the United States of America and the Constitution of the State of Georgia recognize the right of the people to peacefully assemble, as well as the right of the people to keep and bear arms. And whereas a person's right to peacefully assemble is not invalidated if they decide to exercise their right to keep and bear arms at the same time. And whereas on August 29th, 2023, 61 people were indicted on racketeering charges related to the Stop Cop City movement by the state of Georgia, with many of the alleged crimes being peaceful behaviors such as protesting while armed, operating a bail fund, and being reimbursed for providing food to protesters. And whereas on September 11th, 2023, petitions including over 116,000 signatures supporting the proposed referendum were submitted to the city of Atlanta, which is well above the approximately 58,000 signatures needed for the referendum to be held. And whereas on September 29th, 2023, the city of Atlanta publicly released personally identifiable information of the people who signed the petitions, including names, signatures, addresses, and phone numbers. And whereas the city of Atlanta still has not begun signature verification as of December 11th, 2023, which is a full 3 months after having received the petitions, and has instead spent over $1.3 million on legal representation related to fighting against the referendum process in an environmental case brought against Cop City. And whereas on November 13th, 2023, heavily armed police used tear gas against protesters attempting to march to the Cop City site. And whereas on November 15th, 2023, several cement trucks were found burning, with the group claiming responsibility for setting them on fire, saying that they did so because they believed the trucks were owned by a contractor with ties to Cop City. And whereas all members of the Libertarian Party of Georgia has certified that we oppose the initiation of force to achieve political or social goals. And whereas initiating violence against persons or property to try to stop Cop City is not only unjust, but also counterproductive, as it feeds into the government narrative being used to support Cop City. And whereas the Georgia General Assembly adopted Senate Resolution 6EX, passed the Senate on December 1st, 2023, and the House of Representatives on December 6th, 2023, expressing support for the Cop City and condemning acts of violence and domestic terrorism, after a motion in the Senate to amend the resolution to include language making it clear that it didn't limit or discourage the valid exercise of rights was defeated. And whereas Senate Resolution 6EX implies that all who oppose Cop City are violent extremists, neglects to acknowledge the fallibility of law enforcement, fails to recognize the constitutionally enshrined right of peaceful protest, and fuels a broad disinformation campaign that falsely equates all Cop City opposition with an out-of-state domestic terrorist movement. And whereas the Libertarian Party is the party principle which consistently supports the rights of the people, there being no contradiction whatsoever in opposing Cop City and opposing acts of violence to stop Cop City at the same time, therefore, be it resolved that the Libertarian Party of Georgia, 1, calls upon the state of Georgia to drop the charges against those who are peacefully exercising their rights to oppose Cop City, and 2, calls upon the city of Atlanta to stop obstructing the referendum process and begin signature verification immediately, and 3, condemns the acts of violence and actual domestic terrorism being used to try to stop Cop City, and 4, condemns the adoption of Senate Resolution 6EX by the Georgia General Assembly, and 5, rejects false narratives that equate opposition to Cop City with support of violence or condemnation of violence with support of Cop City, and 6, condemns the continued weaponization of the law and other methods utilized by the city of Atlanta and the state of Georgia clearly intended to silence peaceful opposition to Cop City.
Each piece of information like this that we get is
All right, it has been moved to adopt this resolution. Is there a second?
Second.
Second.
Been moved and seconded now to adopt this resolution as it was read and as shown on the screen. Is there any debate? Hearing none, we'll close debate and move to a vote. Those in favor of adopting this resolution as presented, please raise your hands.
I see 9 in favor.
Agreed. Go ahead and lower your hands. Those opposed? Being none, the ayes have it. Motion carries and this resolution is official. Thank you again, Mr. Allen, for your work on that. That is super helpful and keeps us within our duties according to the policy manual. So always do appreciate it, and you do great work. The next piece on the agenda is the chair's report. So not too much to report this month. The biggest things are we're coming up on the legislative session. So I'm still trying to get a hold of some of the legislators that we had talked to beforehand. I was trying last week at the Forsyth County affiliate to get in touch with Carter Barrett, who's a freshman representative, and he did not make it and was a no-call, no-show for us. But I will be around Senator Dolezal, and Brian has already met with him virtually once. So just getting an opportunity to mention this to him again will be a solid thing. So those are the big pieces. Everything else, just working on some of the budget pieces with Alex and getting us prepped up for the next year and thinking through what the future is going to be for that. So that's all I've got. All right, Vice Chair's report. If you want to do communications while you're at it, you are free, Mr. Van.
Okay. So Mitchell Johnson is looking for contacts in Floyd County. If anybody knows anybody there who may be interested in getting involved in the affiliate, please let me or Mitch know. And he's also looking for volunteers to table at the Cartersville Gun Show on January 20th and 21st. I'll put that in writing, put it out on Basecamp at some point, but just keep that in mind. 20th and 21st of January in Cartersville. Let's see. The communications, I have all the metrics in the agenda again, if anyone wants to take a look at that and, see where we're doing well, where we're not, where we're growing. Let's see. I think that's it. I had one other thing, but I don't think it was important. If I remember, I'll put it on Basecamp. Oh, I do remember already. I have talked to 2 people who may be interested in running for PSC 5. I haven't gotten a definite yes from anybody yet, but just interest. Nobody from 3, so that would be one. I don't know that I have a ton of contacts in. Haven't had anybody reach out to me. So keep that in mind if you know anybody from, basically the Fulton area that would be interested in that. I don't know that we have anyone that's expressed interest in PSC 3 yet.
And that's Fulton, DeKalb, and Clayton are the 3 counties in that area.
That's it for me.
Awesome. Thank you, Mr. Varnell. Next up is the Executive Director's Report. Ms. Gallimore, if you're on.
Yes. So I am working on putting together some virtual events for next year. I want to do a homeschooling series, a business series, and then some virtual training on some lobbying, basically how to lobby. So if you're familiar with Libertarian activist Anthony Welty, he has agreed to do our first homeschooling virtual event. So if any of you know people in the homeschooling or business areas that might like to do an event for us, or if you know people that might be interested in attending, please send them my way. I also have a meeting this week with the leadership of the Libertarian Party of the UK. We had talked about putting together an exchange program with them. So be thinking next year if anyone would be willing to welcome someone into their home for a short period of time so that they could come over here, and then they would reciprocate by allowing representatives of ours to go over there. Just be thinking about that. And if we would also need volunteers to show them around and things of that nature. That's all I've got.
Sounds like some good stuff. Any questions on that? All right, we'll move to the secretary's report.
I have nothing to report unless anyone has any questions for me.
Okay. And the treasurer's report.
Hey everybody. Okay, so let me share my screen. Okay, so I want to go over November's finances, and then going into wrapping up this year and making the budget for next year. So November, wrapping up on November, we were in the positive, largely because of convention income and range day with Spike going. So that's good. And then see the revenue translating over here into cash flow, and then an increase in if we go up to our total assets, overall net of an increase of about 800. So nothing crazy, but it's nice to be in the green. Speaking of which, I guess first, any questions about financial activities in November? Okay, in that case, I will move on to the budget. So this is sort of a call to arms topic, because just on the projections I've been looking at so far, if our activity remains in a similar fashion for 2024, we will conservatively lose around $5,000, largely due to decreasing membership and across the board expense increases, but more so on the decrease of membership. So I'm playing around with kind of what we can do and what increases would be necessary and realistic in order to get ourselves in a better position. So over the rest of December, what I plan on doing in Basecamp is showing different combinations of increases, whether or not that would be increasing what it would look like if we had a combination of increasing our membership cost by 20%, plus seeing if we have a goal of increasing our pledge income by a similar amount, and the just various types of combinations to make us break even. And similarly, I've been kind of writing down the possible changes that we can make in some kind of order of a locus of control. So definitely in the next meeting, I want to I want to introduce some motions of forming teams where even if people are willing to give maybe 30 minutes a week, I've been compiling automatically from authorized just people who their payments aren't going through correctly. I think that would be an easy win. But that, along with some things that might be requiring more effort, like increasing the amount of events that we have throughout the year, it's going to be what's going to take to get us to break even. So it's going to require a fair bit of work and a decent amount of changes, but I think it's all possible.
All right. Any questions for Mr. Moldenhauer? Okay. Thank you, and we'll keep working on that budget together and seeing what we can work out for the next year.
Thank you.
All right. We did want to go back to Mr. Graham. If you are still here, Mr. Mosley has requested that you speak on the PSC race and your experience in that.
Ryan has told me by private message that he's not available to speak tonight. He's just not in a good place to do that. So I would, if he's willing, I do want him to come and speak to us, maybe at the January XCOM. That's me speaking. I don't have any commitment from Ryan, but I would like to hear from him. He does have important experience that we need to all be aware of. That's all.
Okay. Perfect. If there is no other business, I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
I move to adjourn.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to adjourn. Those in favor, please raise your hands. All right, please lower them. Those opposed. All right, we are adjourned. Thanks, everybody.
Thanks, everybody.